Welcome to the first of our 2 customer panels today. We're focusing on customer education for this panel, and then we'll be talking about employee training in the panel that follows this. But our customer panel at Connect, I'm so proud of the evolution of this content over the 3 years that we've done Connect, and especially that there are so many people here who were part of those customer panels. So Jen and Christina and Riaz and Brian, who all contributed to panels in previous years and then became rock stars, and I love that, and I love that for L&D. It's the thing that, Bianca asks, why do we work? And really evolving this profession and raising it up and making it something that people take seriously and people value the expertise. That's so important to me. So I am so honored to get to be on this panel. And this is an evolution of a conversation that has started from our first Connect session, and we're evolving that conversation again today. You'll see, again, Jen and Riaz and Christina all have champion or VIP badges on their lanyards because of the thought leadership, not to LearnUpon, but in the L&D profession, and what they've contributed. Their teams are also here with them today, and that's such a testament of that thought leadership of growing new leaders and sharing that thought leadership. So delighted to continue this conversation with Gail and Marnie today. So I'll start with having them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their journey in this field. I'll start with Marnie, who, and if you don't know this about me, if you've heard from previous sessions that I've done, my dream is to be a talk show host. So this moment that is going to come right now is any talk show host dream, or specifically any talk show producer's dream, that we have a really exciting announcement. So Marnie, who was a senior client enablement specialist, and I'll have her tell you about her new title and a bit of her journey about how she got there.
Thank you. So I actually recently got a promotion. I was on vacation and got an email, and I am now the client enablement manager. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you, guys.
And when was it? This was
like literally less than 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Because we were in Florida on vacation at Disney, and I was in the app. If anyone's ever been to Disney, you know you have to be in the app constantly, and I saw the little notification because I was trying to not do work stuff, and I was like, wait, I got to click on that one. And it was them letting me know that I was being promoted. And with that, it is the opportunity to essentially build a department. So I am really excited about that. When I started with LearnUpon 6 years ago, it was our boss saying, we need e-learning, go figure it out to me. And I was like, okay.
And e-learning for customers?
For our clients,
yeah.
Yep, for our customers, because we have a lot of turnover in our industry, and so we can't always be on site. And so we wanted to have something that was easily accessible, and that was just basically given to me as go figure it out.
Which I think is the beginning of most L&D professional story. I don't know that anyone said, here's a career path, right. Here's a template to follow. And then what does your company do?
So we sell accounting and city management software to small municipalities in the United States. So think 10,000 or less in population. Most of our users aren't tech savvy. A lot of them are in rural areas. And so being able to have something online that was accessible to people really made a big difference, because we can't always go out and go on site. And then it was perfect timing, because right around this time, shortly after it was all developed, COVID hit. And so even the things we would have done on site, we no longer could. And so we're really lucky that I had already had that in place and ready to go, and that made a big difference for us during COVID.
And what was your background that brought you to training?
So I actually started as a technical writer out of college. I was an English major, and the company I was at kind of switched their technical writing focus, and it wasn't a full-time job anymore, and I ended up moving over to do tech support for our software, because I've been writing documents about how to do things. And so I did that for about 6 years, and then that's when they came to me. They're like, well, you have technical writing experience. You've trained users when you've done implementation. You've helped problem solve. Would you like to start this program. And I was like, yeah, that seems like a really good marriage of the different things that I've done.
Fantastic. And Gail, so Gail Mowat from Fix, who's a senior training and education manager. Gail, what brought you to this stage today?
Well, I guess it's been a journey. I started with Fix, which is actually a company that belongs to Rockwell Automation. The industry is maintenance, and so our software allows organizations to keep track of maintenance on their expensive assets. And so I came to the role 4 years ago, and part of my interview process, they gave me a link to the LMS, which was LearnUpon, and they had just acquired or adopted it. And they said, provide your critical thoughts on how this has been set up and how you would make improvements. And so I provided some thoughts, and then a few months later was successful in getting the role. And so I had the opportunity to take what was existing and build the vision or the strategy around how that would be rolled out. The focus is on customers, but what we really have done is expanded the use of LearnUpon, and so it touches every vertical in our organization, from sales and pre-sales to marketing, professional services, and of course our employee group.
Gail had such a great comment yesterday. We were doing some small group sessions around product feedback, and was it an octopus, and the tentacles of training are just everywhere in the company, and I thought that was, I remember somebody explained training to me as cookie cutters, and then training was everything that was left when you cut the cookies out, but that actually seems kind of sad that training is the scraps, and so I like
Sometimes
We're the
feels
whole
that way.
it does. No, I
We're
think
the
it is.
whole
So
octopus.
yes, but I like the octopus. I like the central nervous system, and that that's much more powerful than the scraps of cookie dough. When you think about just your year or your program and what you're responsible for, and not maybe the answer that you would give to a family friend about what do you do, but when you think about it yourself of what you're responsible for, what do you think about how, like your strategy, what are you responsible for?
Sure. I think that the biggest thing for me is making sure I'm understanding my learners, which is very apropos for the session we just had. Because our learners aren't tech savvy, because they are rural, they just have a different perspective on things. And so understanding that is really the key to making engaging content for them. They're not impressed by flashy. They want straight shooter, give me the information, make it practical, make it fast. We're busy people. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in a small town city hall, but there's no 2 days alike. And that clerk, if the mayor comes in and wants to chat for 30 minutes, she's chatting for 30 minutes. If a citizen comes in and wants to complain about their utility bill, she's working through that with them regardless of all the other things. And so the core for me has been, who are our learners and what are their emotional needs? How do we fit into that so that they will complete the training?
And how do you translate that across your organization to speak to the value of that? Because I imagine that's not, if people hear that even in your organization of, well, what does that give us? What does that mean for us? So how do you translate that, which is such a core framework of how learning professionals think? How do you translate that into talking within your org about what your strategy is?
So initially what we looked at was support tickets. And our first year after we introduced our GWorks University, our support tickets went down 18%. So that was a really nice thing to hang my hat on. It definitely helped earn that credibility. So then when I came with new ideas, they were much more likely to be like, okay, let's give it a shot. And we are in the process of getting LearnUpon Anywhere going. And the metrics that I'm looking at is we also have Pendo, which can track our users' movement. And so I want to see, after they click on the button to enroll in the course, then what do they do afterwards? Do they go do the process that it just showed them how? Do they open a support ticket? And so those are the metrics that I'll probably be looking at after that. So can we get user adoption from those pieces?
Yep. And Gail, for you, how do you, I mean, and you're also in a complex org and your company was acquired, and so you're really living in quite a bureaucracy. How do you think about your strategy within yourself, and then how do you communicate that to your different stakeholders?
Okay, I would think about my own strategy maybe from a change management perspective. So when we think about change management, the focus is on the people, and we're thinking about how do we make sure that they embrace, adopt, and use the application. And everybody knows about the story with software that if they don't use it, it becomes shelfware as opposed to software. So what do we need to do to remove barriers for people to be able to do their job, and that the tool that we give them to do their job becomes second nature. It's not a barrier to the things they need to do. So that would be from my own perspective. I'm part of a SaaS organization, so software as a service means that we really need to make sure that the software is being used. And when we look at the model, which is you land, you adopt, you expand, you renew, it becomes really easy for once to say how training or education folds into that. We're able to work with pre-sales, right? What are the things that we can offer to prospects so that they start to get an interest in the organization? So we have a portal where our prospects are able to get a taste of what we have to offer. I was talking to Constance, and we'll hear from her a little bit later, and she's brilliant for HubSpot. Yeah. They've taken it a step further, where not only do they have access for prospects, but in fact, there's an incentive built into whatever the cost is for the application if they go in to the LMS and complete content. Through professional services, we present ourselves in order to help with the end users learning how to use the application. So we have learning paths that correspond with the different development sprints within the implementation. And then for Go Live, we have recurrent training, so we have certifications for our users based on the different roles. So what we've tried to do at an organizational level is just to insert ourselves into that process and figure out in the customer journey what is the value that we can add.
And how do you, I had this realization a couple of years ago in speaking with customers and saying, you know, go talk to your support team or go talk to your sales team or your marketing team and see where you can connect with them on strategies. And it took me a couple years to realize that for a lot of people, that's terrifying. And it was actually someone who presented at a customer conference with us, and she was talking about, there's an initiative that I want to do, but it would mean asking my product team for help, and I'm terrified. And I don't know why I'm terrified. I think they're going to say no, and I don't have a great relationship with them. And so I've spent 6 months not asking this question because I'm just scared to ask. And so when you say insert yourself into those organizations and those conversations, like, logistically, how do you do it? How do you, do you put on a brave hat and do it? Like, what's the actual tactical strategy for it? Because people like yourselves who are so good at this and have built this success, that's what they do, but it's actually really hard and it's scary.
The first thing I would say is, thankfully, I have a leader who's very supportive, so that emboldens me. And I think part of me, I also have that personality where I feel very strongly about what we do in training and education, and so I feel somewhat unapologetic. But I do recognize that, generally speaking, in organizations, they're a little bit late to the understanding of the value that training and education plays. And, you know, listening to our opening conversation this morning, listening to Brendan and Des talk about the importance of, when you're at the big table, being able to quantify the value. That's huge. And so for me to come and hear those conversations, yep, because in my mind, I want to be able to do that, and not to go into a conversation saying, you know, we're good just because, like, I feel like we're good. You should feel the same way. I can say that we have been able to convince the different organizations or the different departments within our organization of the value, so that when we say this is what we want to do, we also help to explain the why it's
Yep.
going to produce value. We engage with the team to say, how is it that we can help you? So for professional services, for example, it's important to educate your end users and not to just drop it on them 2 days before go live. Here's a half an hour session on how to use the software. Go, right? It's got to be those interpersonal conversations, but you have to be really strong in understanding why we add value.
Yep.
Right? And then once the why, it's of course the buy-in. Once you get to those two things, then you can start to talk about what the content is. And then if you don't have those two things, go back and reestablish. If you don't understand why, then you're not going to be convincing. And then if leaders, middle managers, people managers don't understand why and don't buy in, you're not going to make any headway.
Someone described it as sort of leaving a business card everywhere you're going that just has your value, and sometimes you're not going to get a call back right away, but it's just leaving your business card, but knowing exactly what those key points are. Marnie, for you, as you've now, because, right, team of one, but sort of built this promotion and advocated for that and delivered value.
Now.
Yes. Oh, fab. Oh, team of two. Yes. Yes.
Double.
Yes.
I've
yes.
doubled it.
Yes.
That's
No.
what
Let's practice our numbers. Marnie's doubled her team size. And yes, 100% growth. Yes. How did you navigate that, sort of inserting yourselves into those conversations so that you would be at a place, and I don't minimize this to say as if then you just were offered a promotion. I know that takes a lot of conversations and a lot of, or I guess, what was your advocacy strategy?
Sure. It's really interesting that you did say insert yourself, because that's the exact word I used when I was talking with Francis earlier. I found a problem in the organization that people were not sure how to fix, and I inserted myself. And I said, here's how we could fix this. And then I worked with different departments so that we could come up with a strategy that would work for everybody. Another thing that I would really recommend, if you don't have those relationships already, just see if you can get invited to their stand-ups.
Yeah.
So I go to our support team stand-up at least once a week. I have a meeting with our onboarding and our product teams once a week. And even if you're just a fly on the wall, it's still helpful for you, and it's also helping to develop those relationships. And so I think that because I already had some of those relationships going,
Yep.
Then when I was like, hey, we have this problem, here's how I think we could fix it, it was a lot easier to get buy-in.
And how do you, because that strategy, and it's part of sort of inserting yourselves in those conversations, but also there's almost a learning aspect of it, or a curiosity, or a studying aspect of it, of how do you find where those problems are? Because again, those don't just show up in an email to say, Marnie, we have a problem. How do you, and I know sometimes this is not a conscious strategy, but how do you show up and look for those problems?
I mean, joining the stand-ups
Yep.
is a really good first start, because
Yep.
you're going to learn really quickly what those problems are, because they're going to be talking about them
Yep.
every single day. So that was, I think, a big thing. I also, I guess, had a little bit of just luck in that our onboarding team was really struggling. We had a negative 46 NPS for our
Yep.
onboarding process.
Yep.
And so it was to the point where the company was like, anybody who has ideas, please. And this winter, we moved to all of our onboarding process to kind of be a hub in LearnUpon, so it is helping our clients throughout the way, because our onboarding process is about 2 to 4 months, and clients were just like, I don't know what to do next. We'd send them emails, but they're like, I've not heard from anybody, because they wouldn't
Yeah.
see the email, or they'd lose it and they wouldn't know what they needed to do. And so we got to a point where we were just really, truly like spitballing, how can we fix this problem? And I was like, well, why don't we just make them go to the place we're already making them go for training, so it makes it easier. And we just had our first cohort, I think it was like about 3 weeks ago, finish, and our NPS went up to negative 64. So I'm like, that's a great increase in that period of time, which also then, of course, every time you have those little moments, it gives you more credibility. Mm-hmm. It gives you, people are more likely to kind of run with your ideas and give you some buy-in. even when they're not 100% certain.
Yep.
So,
I think if I could add to that, I know when I first started in my role and at the organization, I was really in the weeds. And so it was all about, content. How can I get this content into the LMS? How can I get the people, going to the LMS? And the things that we were looking at were things like courses completed. We were looking at, logins and those sorts of things. And it really was at more of a tactical level. Now that I have a little bit of breathing space and I can get my head up and look around, the way that you get to people is by understanding what are the departmental objectives. What is this department trying to accomplish? What are their KPIs? How can I find a way to be a partner with them so that they can get closer to their goals? My departmental objectives have to align with theirs, which align with the organizational objectives. And if you can approach it from that perspective, then the things that I'm talking about are no longer just to do with L&D. Oh, we had this many course completions, this many enrollments. Nobody actually cares about that except for me.
They don't. It's heartbreaking, but they
I
don't.
don't understand it, but
I mean, I think you're 100% right on with that too, because if you go to your support department and you're like, I want to help you reduce support tickets the first month after people go live, you got their attention.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yes, please, because we need help.
help me help you. Yeah.
But
What's in it for me?
But on the flip side, there are times when you're going to need help or going to need resources. And so, Gail, I think back to when I know you were speaking to Katie, who's your customer success manager, and talking about wanting to up-level the metrics that you were looking at and the business results that you were looking at. But to do that, you had to integrate some data sets, and you had to integrate with Gainsight and take your learning data and put it against your product adoption metrics and your customer health metrics and all of that. But it was a slog, and it's not like you just took those systems up and said, here's my data. And if you could have done it yourself, you could have had it done in a week, but these were systems that were owned by other business units and other stakeholders. How did you ask for the help that you needed there and then ensure that you got it? Because there could have been, and probably were, some no's along the way.
Oh, that's such a good question. It's such an important question. Mainly because we are now starting to understand the importance of data without question. And I got to give a shout out to Katie because she's awesome. There she is. I'm part of an organization that, in all honesty, is not focused on what I do. So to give you an idea of how not focused they are, we've been asking for single sign-on from our application to LMS since, well, before I got there, and I've been there for 4 years. So it's just not a thing for them. What we really wanted to do was, I fall under the customer success umbrella, and I had conversations with Katie about the importance of metrics. And our business review that we did this year really reflects how LearnUpon has been listening to our need for metrics. And she's really delivered on that side, but she's not connected to our systems. So my leader, I had spoken to him and said, Gainsight has all of this information. It's our customer success application. It gives us things like customer health, so that we could start to make correlations if only we could connect the data. And so I recruited him, and we were a mighty team of 2. And we went to our revenue operations and we just basically said, we want to have a dashboard created and we want the things. And we weren't even quite sure what the things were, but, can you give us the energy of a data engineer for just like, I think we had said 8 hours. And quite fortunately, there's a pretty straightforward integration that you can do using Zapier, right? And so the person who was on that team who joined me to do this thing, she was really great because she started to think about ways that the different fields could be used on the dashboard to tell a story. And I think that, as we sit here in a conference, there is about 100 of us. we need to start thinking about the stories that we want to tell when we sit at the big table,
Yep.
right? It's one thing to get someone within your organization to say, okay, we'll give you the resources to create a dashboard that's going to organize your data. What do you want on the dashboard? Because there's nothing worse than saying, I don't really know. So it's really great because we're starting to have these conversations, right? So if you can engage your organization to help with these things, what are the stories we want to tell? What's the playbook? So that's where my brain is at right now, and it's so great to hear that so many of the conversations are around integration, data,
Yep.
AI, how to be prescriptive with the data and tell the story.
But I think about that scenario that if you didn't have that narrative that you'd built over time and you didn't have that value add that you were looking to provide, you could have, and I see people make this mistake sometimes too, it's not even a mistake, but go to an IT team and say, I need this integration set up, and it's a flat no, and not no in 6 months, not no, it's just no. But there's no scope of the project, there's no, but it is, I think, yeah, having that, essentially that calling card and those relationships that you've built over time, because 8 hours, I mean, it's not an insignificant amount of time, and you're in a large organization that's competing against multiple priorities. Like, that's a huge win to be able to get someone to say yes.
And I bring it up again and again and
Yeah.
again. The dashboard that they created for us is fantastic. Guys, have you looked at the dashboard? The dashboard.
Yes, yeah, was that Power BI? Is that what you used?
So we use, Power BI.
Yep.
We use Zapier, and then it's pulling from LearnUpon, and it's pulling from
Yep.
Gainsight.
Yep, fantastic. For Zapier, just a plug for some content. Actually, Gail has a video on our Engage community about how they set this up. And then Brian Pavlovich, who's in the audience today, he was our Zapier superstar last year, talking about how he's used it to automate processes and also has some content. So take those nuggets from prior customer panels. Marnie, for yourself of a smaller organization where there's maybe less red tape, but also less resources and just smaller, how do you get help?
Well, I think one of the things that really helped me is I developed relationships with marketing, because marketing loves data, as we learned earlier. And so I was like, well, if this data could help you in your job, then we had 2 different departments going forward and advocating. And for us, we are kind of, I think, at the beginning stages of where, the journey you're on. So our source of truth is going to be HubSpot. We're already actually moving our support to Service Hub, because the idea is we want to have one place where we can see the onboarding, the CRM, what's going on in LearnUpon, and really truly, get that whole customer score of like, where are they? How are they doing?
Yep.
And so since our marketing team was already pushing that way, because they're like, we want data, I was like, I can help you with that. Here, how about we try this? So we're kind of in that beginning stages of figuring out what would that dashboard look like for us.
And just for, again, sort of the evolution of the profession, or sort of where Marnie and Gail are, of that you're not an LMS administrator. Like, you now are the empress of that dashboard. Like, that is, yes. But right, I mean, that is, we're an LMS conference, but LMS administrator, like, that's not the end of where the journey is. And that's something that's not going to resonate when you're telling people in your organization what you do and what you own. But like, owning that, and if that's for your vision too, like owning that of that data set that would show the relationship to training to business metrics, like, that's massive.
Huge.
Yep. We could talk about this all day. Gil and Marnie will be around, so please do connect with them. They're incredible. Hearing Marnie's story about getting her promotion today, I teared up a little bit about it, because it just is, it's so special. Marnie and I just met today. Gil and I have known each other probably for 4 years, but just virtually. And it's the thing I looked forward to most over the last month was to get to meet Gail in person, because there's something about people who get this space and want to do really cool things with it, but also care so much about being guardians of learning and training, and you just see each other, and so it's really special to get to spend this time together. For our last, to wrap this up, 2 things. What are you excited about, and what's keeping you up at night?
Well, I'm excited about LearnUpon Anywhere.
Oh, fab.
In fact, the first time that they announced it, I basically emailed like every, 3 to 4 months, is this ready yet? Is this ready yet? Is this ready yet? So I'm really excited about that. I think what keeps me up at night is resources and getting, I need product for that. I need product to do it, and how am I gonna finagle and push, even if it's just an hour? Sometimes that's hard.
Yep.
What am I excited about? I'm excited about the promise of integrated data and AI. So much opportunity, and I feel like all of the things are coming together. They're converging at a time that's really going to just catapult training into the main stage. What keeps me up at night? Data integration and AI.
Yeah.
Because it's a big question, like how? So yeah, partners, guys, let's talk. Let's keep talking. Hit me up on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Gail,
Marnie, thank you so much for your thought leadership and for the vulnerability of this discussion. I think that we don't talk this way enough, and so about how challenging this is, but also how cool it can be. Like, it can be really cool, and it can be something that you can really champion and be proud of. So thank you so much, and we're excited to see what you're up to this year. Thank you.